Hi everyone, today I will use my Canson XL Mixed Media sketchbook. It has 98 pounds paper in it. I have already applied 2 coats of gold and silver point drawing ground. And now we'll introduce you to my little collection of metal point tools. I haven't used them in a little while, so I need to get used to how they work again. Well, not necessarily how they work, but how dark they are depending on the gauge and the metal used. So in this box I've got a new one, and I'm using mechanical pencils to put the metal in it. So this one is really sharp and it's silver. And you probably can't see very well on the video because using metal to draw is kind of like using a very hard graphite pencil. So it does not leave a very dark line on the paper. You will need to add many layers in order to obtain a darker tone, but no matter what, you'll never get a super dark line like with a 6B, for instance. So that second bit of metal is copper. I was told that it can achieve darker values, but I have to figure it out because I've never used it before. The third one that I have is a stylus that I bought a long time ago on eBay, which is kind of neat because it's a piece of, I think it's sterling silver that was attached to a stick, and I thought it was really cool looking. But as you can see, since I haven't used it for a while, the metal bit is a bit tarnished. This one is a bigger gauge. It's still silver, but I think it's a 2mm. It's a bit thicker, and it has a beveled point, I guess. It's a little rounded too. I like this one to achieve smooth looking areas. It's easier than just hatching, I think. But as you can see, it's also tarnished a bit. And the other end is more pointed. So I can use either side, which is pretty neat. Now the next one is also silver. I think maybe one is sterling silver and one is still silver. Not quite sure, but as you can tell, it's a smaller gauge. And this one is actually gold. Gold is a bit lighter when you apply it on paper, at first at least. And while silver has a cooler hue, it tends to go towards the blue-gray. Gold is a little warmer. I'll talk more about the differences a bit later, but that's for now. So right now it really looks like it's graphite. It shines like graphite, but it's really just metal. And one of the major differences is that you can't really erase it. I think depending on the grounds you use on your paper, some will allow you to erase it better. But with the golden ground, it really doesn't work. And if you try to use an eraser, it's going to make the ground shine, and it doesn't look very good at all. So to get reacquainted with this really cool medium, I decided to do a couple sketches. I chose feet because I thought it's a good practice to draw anatomy. And like I just mentioned, you can't erase, so you have to make sure your sketches are pretty good or accurate enough when you get started. So go light. Well, you don't have a choice. You have to go light anyways. You always need to go light with your metal point. If you push harder on your tip, it's not necessarily gonna give you a darker line. Darker lines are obtained a different way. So silver point or metal points is a really old medium. If you look up the Renaissance masters, you know, Da Vinci, Michelangelo, you'll see that they used metal point for the sketches, and mostly silver point because it was more noble. And the reason they did that is because the graphite pencil hadn't been invented yet. People, even sculptors, they would sketch their ideas with silver point and then show the sketches to the people who commissioned those sculptures to see if they would approve the shape and, you know, the general idea. So that's how they did it over 600 years ago. And because, again, you can't really erase, you had to be pretty good at your work to achieve nice results. Apprentices, they were required to use metal point to practice, to learn how to draw, because you needed to be precise, and it just really forced you to observe and do a good job, because you can't erase. It really makes you think about where you put your lines, and it slows you down. You have to take your time to use metal point, because you can't apply darker values just by pushing on your stylus. You have to take the time to apply layer upon layer upon layer to build those values. So a lot of them use cross-hatching because it's a great way to darken the shadow areas. And frankly, at least in my humble opinion, hatching looks really cool. I like hatching and cross-hatching, even though I'm not very good at it. So anyways, if you do decide to look up those sketches from the old masters, you'll see that most of them aren't gray anymore, and that's because metal tarnishes, and it will tarnish on your paper. Silver will become kind of like a sepia, light sepia. Copper will turn green, and other metals will turn different colors. Now, gold does not tarnish, so gold will stay gray forever. Now, if there are areas where you've added lots and lots of layers, they will be very shiny, like if it's silver. But if you just use just gold and you just really go at it, even though your drawing looks silver, when you make it shine, when you look it from the side, it shines golden, which is really neat. So those sketches are quick, although it took me about an hour each to draw them. But I didn't want to, go too much into details. And the reason why I decided to get back into SILVERPOINT is because there are two reasons. First, I would like to just practice sketching, observational drawing, this kind of things, and not worry much about, how finished my piece is. Just sketch in my sketchbook. Just practice. Not having to erase, like I mentioned earlier, is also nice because it really pushes me to observe better and take my time, not rush. Another thing, because it takes time to add all those layers, although it might frustrate some, to me, I think it's really relaxing. It's kind of like scratchboard, where you have to take your time and just scratch away. I really enjoy it. I really like just taking my time. It's a change in the pace. I'm just in the zone, basically. So let's get back to that ground. Metal doesn't write on regular plain paper. It needs to be used on some kind of abrasive surface. The old masters had some recipes that kind of sounded like witch's brews, I guess. You needed some bone ash, like real bone ash, animal skin glue, and all that stuff. And while quite a few people who are using metal point these days, they try to recreate that ground that the old masters used. They have their own recipes. Some stores sell a dehydrated form of that recipe, which is kind of neat. But you also have Golden that actually sells a ground. It's not the same, but it's ready to use just like a gesso. I went for the ease of use. Even though the other recipe is supposed to be better, you're supposed to be able to obtain darker values with it. I'm not worried about getting darker values. And as you can see, the values that I got are pretty good right now. I'm fine with this. Again, look up some old masters or even some new masters at SILVERPOINT. Some artists these days are really good at it, and they make final drawings, and some of them are really soft, and they just look beautiful. So anyways, my goal is to try, I have another ground that I haven't tried yet, but it's only supposed to be used on hard surfaces, so wood or not even a canvas. Canvas is not hard enough. So I can't really use it in my sketchbook, so I'm going to have to find something to use it on. But I also want to tint my ground, so I think I'm going to dedicate a sketchbook to SILVERPOINT and just apply the ground on the pages, that way they're ready in advance. And I've been putting a couple of layers. I found that it works well for me, 2 layers. But another thing that I'd like to do is to tint my grounds. So you can do that by adding a little bit of watercolor or gouache, or I have casein, so I'm going to put a tiny bit of pigments from one of my casein tubes and add it to the ground just to have a tinted ground and see how to work it. And you can also use like a white chalk or white charcoal to add your highlights on the ground, on the tinted grounds, which is kind of cool. But yeah, that's it for SILVERPOINT for today. If you're new to it, welcome. I hope you're intrigued and you might want to try. I'm going to be doing a few SILVERPOINT sketches for a little while because I enjoy it and it's fun. And then I'll share the results with you. If you have tried it before, let me know and tell me if you like it. What's your favorite metal to use? And if you use a ground that's already prepared, if you prepare your own, if you have the patience to do that. Thank you all for stopping by. If you liked this video, please give it a like. And if you're feeling very generous, you can always click on the thanks button next to the share button. Have a wonderful day, everyone. I'll see you soon with another video. Bye bye.